Welcome back to Closing Arguments. The pages of Brian Laundrie's notebook that were released appear to read in two parts. The first, a letter to Gabby, and the second, a letter to the person who finds the notebook. First, let's talk about the letter addressed to Gabby. It reads in part as follows. Gabby, I wish I was right by your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I loved you more than anything. I cannot bear to look at our photos, to recall great times, because it is why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I will think of laughing on the roof of the van. I will always love you. Then on the very next page, Laundrie begins writing to a new reader. If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at photos from our life together, flipping through old cards you wouldn't want to live a day without her, I'm so sorry to everyone this is going to affect. Gabby was the love of my life. I'm so sorry to her family because I love them. I'm so sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well. A terrible grief. Joining me now and in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, and columnist, Dr. Carole Lieberman, is also with us. Carole, when we look at this, and it's the very next page, first writing a journal, a letter to Gabby, and then to anyone else who might be reading the journal, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think he knew that this would be found and that it was really to the world. You know, this is his statement to the world. It was very, very contrived. And it's so interesting how this is coming up right now when there is, when a judge is trying to decide whether there's going to be a hearing, a jury trial, where because of Gabby's parents and family suing Brian's family. And, you know, this is fitting in very well with the fact that it's being released right now is fitting in very conveniently with that. But, you know, he said he loves her family. Really? Then why on page 7 does he say, please do not make, well, this is for his family. Please, this is what goes with what I was saying about convenient. He says, please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter. And he says that in a couple of times during his note. So he's really, that's part of why he's writing this, to try to, you know, keep his family out of trouble.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that he put it in writing. As a forensic psychiatrist, Carole, are you surprised that he wrote a journal, that he actually took the time to write all of this out?
Well, no, that's what I was saying before, that I think he is a manipulator and it was contrived. He wanted the attention of the world. By then he knew actually that he had a lot of attention, that everybody was following this case, and he made hay out of it. You know, he is what I call a prince of darkness, a man who is an abuser, and the more that the man feels as though he's losing the woman, the more abusive, aggressive, dangerous he becomes. So it may well have been, and there have been skirmishes like this before. Her friend actually talked about how she would come to her house when they had some of these incidents before. So you know, it may well have been that he went on this trip with the plan that he was going to perhaps kill her before the end, or as they were going along, you know, he even told the police that she was making this a blog, and so he didn't like that she was sharing her attention with the people who were reading the blog. So he felt like he was losing her in a way, and I think as the trip was going along, maybe that wasn't his plan at the beginning. As the trip was going along, I think he was getting angrier and angrier. There was the incident with the police, and then there was the incident in the restaurant. Remember when the waitresses heard them arguing in the restaurant? That was right before they went to this place where he ultimately killed her.
All right, Carole, as a forensic psychiatrist, does it mean anything that there's a lack of punctuation throughout a lot of the journal? I've just noticed that, and I'm curious.
Well, it's written in a very sort of disjointed kind of way. There are some parts where it looked like he was stretching things out, and you wonder, what didn't he want people to see? What did he write that he realized afterwards he didn't want people to see? I think one of the most interesting parts is the last page, or it seems like the last page. He said, "I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy." So really, on the one hand, he's saying, "Oh, I loved her family. We were so close, and her siblings were like my siblings, and all of that." And then at the end, he says, "They'll be happy to know that I killed myself and that animals tore me apart." So it seems like he knew that they did have some questions about him. And this is a very passive-aggressive thing to say at the end. And then talk about disjointed and punctuation. Yes, there's no punctuation. But then the last part, "Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter." Excuse me? He starts off this note to Gabby, "I love you, you're the love of my life," then to the world, and then "Please pick up." It is so, it shows the disjointedness of his mind, certainly, at the time, but also it just shows a really, really evil, I really can say evil person. I think he had a very difficult childhood, and, even though he wrote, "Please be kind to my family," and so on, I think his childhood, his family made him who he was, and he had a lot of rage and a lot of darkness.
Yeah, the other thing I just have to comment, there's still a civil lawsuit, right? The Petitos have sued the Laundrie, so we're certainly going to continue to follow that here on Closing Arguments. Thank you to you both, Dr.